The following video is brought to you by Dance Life TV. The Giordano Dance School in Evanston, Illinois has been pioneering and developing jazz dance for more than 50 years. Founded by the late dance legend Gus Giordano, the school is also home to the world-famous company Giordano Jazz Dance Chicago. Today, the legacy continues under the direction of his daughters, Nan and Amy.
What was it like growing up a Giordano?
Growing up with my parents, wow. All I can say firstly is that what an amazing, colorful life we had as children.
I loved both my mother and my father. I realize now I had one of the best childhoods ever. I took dance here as a child for fun, for recreational. I also swam. I, played with my friends. It was not, you had to be at the studio 6 days a week.
The experiences with my father being in the arts, the wonderful world of dance, and my mother being behind the scenes, the great woman behind the man.
Whatever you choose in life has to come from inside, and they both had that same philosophy. I loved watching my mom and dad work on everything. I helped my mom on everything behind the scenes.
And my dad was a star, and I just, I would go around with him very young, and I just wanted to be just like him. And I was hooked very young.
My father discovered dance when he was 5. He went with his mother to New Orleans, and one of his cousins was a tap dancer, and he saw him tap dancing. And he was probably about 13, the older cousin, and he said to his mom, when we go back to St. Louis, you have to find me dance. And he just had this drive from the time he was born that, I'm going to succeed in whatever I do. And when he discovered dance, that was his passion. He signed up as a Marine. He was stationed in California, Camp Pendleton. He just relished every opportunity instead of, oh, this is terrible. I mean, he was probably as far from, a typical Marine, but he knew that this was a chance to see the world and see life. He was in China and Zamboanga. He was there for 3 years. So he was a little bit older than my mother. So when they met in her second year of college, he was 3 years older. And she said that was a great thing. It's always good to, look for somebody a little bit older. So he graduated. My mom still had 1 more year, but he had asked her to marry him. And, she was very happy and said yes. And then he left and went to New York. He was on Broadway. She was in St. Louis. He came home. They got married on Saturday. They took a train to Chicago, stayed at the Drake Hotel right on Michigan Avenue. They thought it was the most wonderful thing in the world. Took the train then to New York. My dad was back in the show Tuesday night. Ran for 2 more weeks. The show closed and he was out of work.
My father would never have been who he was without her. She didn't want any of the limelight. She never wanted to go on the stage. She was always in the background. Years later, when we gave her the Jazz Dance World Congress Award, she walked out so timid, so shy. She didn't like the lights. She didn't like the fame. So she was definitely the great woman behind the great man. They had a wonderful spirit together.
They didn't want to stay in New York and raise a family there. And he was offered a job. It was part-time with the International Film Council, which was in this building. He said, it's a beautiful, amazing suburb. This is where we're moving. So he accepted the job, worked here for the Film Council, and there was some empty space, I believe in Studio 3 or 4. And so he rented the space out and he started to teach classes. That began to grow. He was truly so successful because he would do anything that involved dance. From the time I was little, he taught ballroom to all of the 7th and 8th graders, really in the Chicagoland area. My dad did it for the passion and the love of dance. He was not driven to make money. If somebody wanted to learn dance, he wanted to teach it, and he always gave his all.
What I think impacted me the most from both my father and mother is the way they treated people. You don't really find that generosity and that graciousness and humbleness in this day and age. So I think the gift of making everyone feel special. And I just remember one day, my father said to me, really, titles were not really of interest to me. One day he said, "You're going to be the artistic director of the company." I looked at him and I said, "Okay, Dad."
Was there a question in your mind that you were going to keep this going?
Absolutely no question. It's just what you did. I watched, that's what my mom did for years, and I loved it. It's such an energizing place. The building, I work with faculty and staff that are incredible.
The future of the school is very bright because finally, with my sister taking the helm, we have 6 junior companies. The school is thriving. She's done and will continue to do very innovative things, keeping the focus still on my father's beliefs and what he stood for.
So many people do think of this as only a professional school, and it's actually the complete opposite. We are one of the few schools in the area where you can have a 13-year-old that's never taken dance come in, feel very comfortable. We have classes for them because dance can add so much self-esteem for a child. 13, 14 can be a very awkward, age. Our classes are geared on learning dance. We don't start recital pieces in September. We usually start them about 2 months before the show.
And we don't go for the fads. We go for we set the pace.
All of our teachers are Giordano Jazz Dance Chicago company members. They give so much of themselves to these students. They go above and beyond, like my dad always did, and that's why I like working with them.
So I think with the real groundedness that we were instilled with, I think the school is just going to excel, absolutely excel. The company, Giordano Jazz Dance Chicago, is now considered in our own city of Chicago to be in the top ranks of the companies. We have become a repertory company, so in one evening you'll see many different styles, and that was my father's dream. So I really am very excited about the company. I just see the team between the company and the school tandemly elevating, very much so. What is dance? Dance is soul, and dance is coming from within.
It's not just movement. Movement, you can train someone to do steps. But dance is when the steps become the person and the dance is flowing out of them.
You can look at our dancers and say, wow, they were amazing technicians. But if you don't tell me that you felt something, they didn't do what they're supposed to do.
I am Amy Giordano.
I'm Nan Giordano.
And you are watching
Dance Life TV.
See more videos like this at dancelifetv.com.